this was the work of Ilse Koch, the ex-commandant's wife, later known as the Beast of Buchenwald. She had men with elaborate tattoos on their chests killed, the skin stripped off, dried, and then made into lampshades. One of the guides even pointed out a nipple on one of the shades. It was eerie. We spent most of our time in the crematorium at that table. I remember handling several of the lampshades. I also remember a shrunken head on the table. I later learned that shrunken heads were usually fashioned by from murdered Russian POWs. You can also find that online. In recent years, I've seen a picture of a table with various assorted items on it and one lampshade. I read at the trial of Ilse Koch they could not produce any of those lampshades, and thus that particular charge against her was dismissed for lack of evidence. What happened to the lampshades? Did somebody take them as souvenirs? They were certainly there on that day that I toured the facility. Somebody has them around someplace. We can't find any of them now. After touring the crematorium, we walked out a side door to the left and found a stack of bodies apparently waiting to be cremated. They were thrown together in a pell-mell fashion, a pile of them about 4 or 5 feet high, all emaciated. Some looked as if they had been recently killed. They were bloody, but others looked like older corpses. Interestingly enough, on top of the pile were 2 German guards fully clothed. All insignia had been ripped from their uniforms, and I assumed they were taken as souvenirs, so I don't know that for sure. It is a fact that American soldiers were known to take souvenirs during this war. In any event, we were told by our guides that these 2 guards had been captured by the American Army the day before on the road to Weimar and were brought back to the camp. They were then put in a room with 10 prisoners armed with billy clubs, whereupon the prisoners beat them to death. I could tell that they had been beaten because their faces were all puffy and bloody. In subsequent pictures, I never saw those German guards on that stack of bodies. I assume they were removed because it would have reflected poorly on the American Army. But they were there on April 12th when I toured the facility, and that part of history has never been told to my knowledge. I saw a picture of Patton walking along with
General Patton insisted that we wait there 2 days so everybody could go in and see just what the Germans were doing with all these people.
Yeah.
And our 4th Armored Division, which we liberated the camp, I guess, 4th and the 6th. And the cavalry came in first on the 10th or the 11th, and they shot most of the guards. The ones they didn't shoot, they ran away. So a lot of them did get away. But General Patton insisted that we stay there long enough so everybody in the division were able to go in and see what was going on.
Was there a smell there?
Oh God, yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what happened. We didn't smell that. We were there, within 24 hours.
Yeah.
But the Germans had discombobulated the water system there. So that was why I didn't smell anything, but later on I understand it was pretty bad.
Well, we just saw the guys, some came out barely able to walk, some couldn't get out of the beds. Right. They were racked 4 or 5 high. Some of them were already dead on the bunks.
Did you happen to get into the where they cremated them?
Oh yeah, we saw the cremation.
Did you get into the killing room, what they call the killing room?
Well, we saw the body parts still in the furnaces where they burned them.
Well, there's another room. There's a door on the outside in the back, and they would force the bodies through that. It's like a cold chute.
Yeah.
Out the back, yeah. And then they would take their clothes off. They didn't want to cremate them with their clothes on, and so then they would put them in this other building, or other room, and they would get them ready to be cremated. But here's what was called a killing room. And
well, you must have been there since we left about the 12th, because the day we left, we heard that Roosevelt had died, and we didn't know if the news was a day or 2 or 3 days old. But I think it was the 12th of April.
It was 11th was when they were.
Oh, you were there on the 11th?
I was there on the 12th, and I was within 19 hours after it was liberated. And,
Yeah, we liberated it.
Okay.
4th Armored Division and 6th Armored Division.
6th Armored Division. Well, actually, you know, the story there is that when the 6th Armored came up this concrete road, these prisoners were out just like the Spirit of 76, marching in unison, and they had their makeshift guns or knives that they had hidden in the barracks and so forth, and they were marching up and down that road, and when the 6th Armored came in there, they were alongside of them, one was going one way and one was going the other way.
Mm.
But that's the story the Jewish guy told me. So,
Well, the purpose of the camp was they had a large quarry, I think, that they got a lot of, where they had these guys working in.
they did. They had a quarry. They also had
Manufactured stuff there too. It was a huge plant. They had almost 200 prisoners in there when we got there.
well, they had 21,000 when I got there.
Well, you never got a count. So we didn't get
Dick counted all of them. He was going through them.
Actually, these two Jewish guys were headed the records department. There, I didn't see. There were 1,500 women there. There were 800 children. This camp was a work camp. You had these.
Yes, yeah, work camp. Sure was.
And in the surrounding area, they had these people, most of them Jewish people, working in there. And some of those buildings, there were 2,500 women working on parks.
Mm.
And I understand it when some of them tried to deliver some of these women, and they got about 1,000 of them, and the 6th Armored overtook and saved actually 1,500 women's lives by overtaking the convoy that was headed out of there. But actually, as far as I found out, there was no gas chambers in Germany per se. They were all in Poland and other states, but they were work camps in Germany, and I was told that there were no gas chambers per se. But there's been written stuff that actually in this camp, Buchenwald, it was a gas chamber, but it wasn't, because the only building was
No, there were no gas. I don't think they did gas in there, no.
Well, they didn't